Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jack Pelton, Chairman and CEO of EAA.
You're very kind. Well, thank you, thank you, Tom. That was too kind, actually. But it's been a fun ride, and certainly being here at EAA has been a challenge, but probably one of the most rewarding assignments I've ever had. And this will be my last when I eventually retire. I want to thank all of you for being here. We hosted the third migration at EAA, and it was fabulous. I thought it was a great location for it, but we didn't have any of this. And I want to talk a little bit about our new education center and how it came about and what it really means to us and what our future vision for it will be. I want to thank the Redbird team for helping to get this thing so well lined up, and you guys are real pros back there on all the logistic pieces of it. And I want to thank also Redbird for bringing Texas weather. 2 Saturdays ago, we didn't bring the snow in for effect. There was 16 inches of snow, and it was everywhere. As we're looking at the calendar coming up to this thing, thinking, oh my goodness, what's it gonna be like this week? But that's Oshkosh weather. In July, when you come back, which you all will be coming back last week of July, we will assure that it's 75 and sunny every day like it was last year. So the weather will be perfect. So let me start off with 2 clicks. Is it the center one?
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
So let me talk about how this came about, because it did come about with a very specific purpose. We were looking at 2 of the probably the most important programs that we have during AirVenture, which is KidVenture, which is held right over on this side of Pioneer, which is a hands-on learning experience for young people, where they go station to station, building wing ribs, carving props, doing different types of assignments that actually at the end of that they get a little toolkit and 2 credit hours to A&P school, but it's mostly geared to elementary school kids, and it's phenomenal. And it really makes a big difference for kids who get that experience. And then we started over 10 years ago the Pilot Proficiency Center out near our member center. And that then became another one of our, I think between the 2 of them, our key cornerstone program activities during AirVenture that were incredibly popular. We had some board members who came forward and said, how do we continue to use these programs year-round, and how do we institutionalize them? And so Dave Lau, who's one of our board members, was really the advocate behind taking the Kid Venture and trying to create a year-round facility for it. And then Joe Brown called me and said, this Pilot Proficiency Center, which he had a lot of investment in it, in his time and resources and effort and passion. And Joe said, why don't we take that area out on the facility, which is way out by the plaza, and put a permanent building, a metal building of some kind. And that was the ideation of this whole thing. And Joe and I kicked it around a lot, saying, well, Joe, between here and there during the winter, it's uninhabitable, and we need to put a lot of heating and power and all that. And this thing just started growing, and then we started deciding about this final facility. And so if it weren't for those two people, with their inspiration and drive and push of me personally, none of this would have come about, and also with their resources to support it. We designed the space specifically around 3 distinct functions. The Pilot Proficiency Center being one, the youth education, which you'll get to see upstairs, which I'll talk just briefly about, and then this event center, which gives us the opportunity to be able to use the space in the community and for outside groups to come in as a revenue stream for EAA. We started a fundraising campaign. The goal was $6.9 million. We're at 6.1 currently. People thought we were crazy because we started the fundraising during the pandemic. We actually started at the end of 2019. We kicked it off internally, and our goal was to get to a certain number before we went out publicly with it. And as you can see, through the entire pandemic, we were able to raise 6.1, which a lot of people thought we were absolutely crazy and it wouldn't happen. But I think what it proved was the 2 missions of the Proficiency Center and Kid Venture year-round really resonated with people understanding these are incredibly impactful programs on young people and incredibly impactful around GA safety, which I will also talk about specifically around the Pilot Proficiency Center. We got it done on schedule and on cost. It was also kind of remarkable during that period of time when you couldn't buy toilet paper and you couldn't get a 2x4 that we were able to have already pre-ordered the steel and the other necessary pieces to start it in the winter of 21 and get it done in July of 22. There was another underlying motivating factor. Charlie Gregor, as a good friend, we had talked about how do you get migration back to EA to host it here. And we were going through sharing the plans and visions of building the center, and Charlie said, I really want to have it here in 2022. That would be really great. So can you work on that timeline and try to get it open before AirVenture? And he was a kind of like a subtle, constant program manager in my ear saying, aren't you done yet? When are you going to get going? I really want to have it in 2022. But thanks to his patience and understanding, we're here today, a little later than he had planned, probably a year later, but at least it's actually happening. Our youth portion of it, which is upstairs, and you're going to have a lot of your breakout sessions in a group of classrooms that are up there that are dedicated just to the actual classroom activities. And then across the hall from it is the STEM labs. And we've really taken the Kid Venture piece of it and brought it up to more of a STEM education level. So it's not quite as juvenile, if you will, as far as the types of project. It's much higher and more difficult types of learnings. Each lab has specific content and purpose in it. Our electronics lab does a lot of things that kids just don't have access to in the classrooms today around the country, including 3D printing. We have modules on that where they actually do make a design and we're able to 3D print it. They do some robotics work, some circuitry work, which we're bringing more of that online. We have an A&P lab, so it's also the mechanics part of it, that they get a chance to work with engines. They can actually do welding in there. We have an indoor welding trainer, which is very state-of-the-art and unheard of in a lot of areas. And we have a wind tunnel that was donated by Embry-Riddle that is in the center of it, which we can actually then teach kids some basics about aerodynamics and have projects and programs around that. And then just basic fabrication labs where you can build and do lots and lots of different things. We've organized it to where it's online. We offer classes and modules. You can then also, as a school or a group, we get a lot of homeschoolers, as an example, that come in and approach us on, okay, here's what we want to do. Here are the modules that we're interested in. How do we get our groups there and get it all scheduled and in place? And that seems to be working very, very well to date. We've got Air Venture 23 plans in place. Grow Venture, which is one of our key 2-day camps on site here, will be active in that facility, again, using it to do hands-on programming. We bring in an airplane load of teachers, and the teachers we're bringing out to the importance of getting teachers acclimated around aviation as a topic so that they can then go back to their schools and figure out how to take some of these projects back into the classroom. Now, again, we're focusing on grades prior to high school. AOPA already has the wonderful high school curriculum that we try to support by these classes and programs feeding into those. And it's interesting, on Teacher Day, so many of the teachers in the elementary and middle school are craving for content to teach because they have to go get and create their own. The schools sometimes don't provide it, so they're always looking for sources of material, and we are able to provide that to them free because these are the programs that we actually offer within the museum on a year-round basis. So it's much appreciated and wanted. Other new programs that we're rolling out this year will really be around more work on composites and circuits, as I mentioned earlier, and then getting into some more design work. We have access for young people to get a copy of Solid Edge, which is a CAD program for electronic design work that can feed into the 3D printers, and that's also something our members can have access to as a membership perk. Last phase is trying to get into actual designing of airfoil so kids can see just the basics of if you tweak this or you tweak that, what actually happens based on the physics of it, and that'll be a very interesting hands-on using the wind tunnel. The event space, we sized it so that the local community, which has, we have quite a few major businesses in town, like the Oshkosh Corp, which is one of the largest defense contractors that builds personnel carrying vehicles, and some other companies that are equally of that equal size that don't have conference facilities big enough for their meetings. We never had a conference room for our own staff that could handle the 200 people we have in one facility. We had to set up chairs in basically a banquet hall so I could have my monthly all hands meetings. And so now we have for our own use also, which is really part of the upside. Well, let's talk Proficiency Center. That's why you guys are all here. Why did we decide that this was so important? When you look at the mission statement of EA, there's a lot of things that we're involved in. The work we do for kids is critically important and one of the cornerstones, especially if you look at our Young Eagles program, which we've now flown over 2.5 million young kids. But we also are really big on the advocacy, and part of our advocacy is safety. I think we all realize as an industry and as a community that if we don't continue to improve the accident rates, that we become a black eye and we end up either becoming overregulated or become viewed by the public as a recreation that the people don't want to participate in because of whatever their preconceived fears or however they may view it. So we're really, really working hard on trying to understand and improve general aviation, and more equally important to us personally at EA is the experimental amateur-built safety records. How do we reduce the fatalities? And a lot of that, we believe, is proficiency. Getting people, a lot of GA people don't fly more than 50 hours a year. How do you continue to get people to understand and learn that training's a good thing? Training shouldn't be something you should be fearful of. It's not a check ride. It's really a understanding of the principles that can make you a better pilot in all phases of flight. And so we really feel that this is one of our callings to do this year-round. So we have opened this up, and one of the key, Jeremy, who runs the center for me, one of the things he and I talk about is this is not EAA's center. We may own the keys and have built the center, but it's really for the entire community. It's a community-based effort that we want to get type clubs, we want to get you guys, we want to get training organizations to partner with to come in and use the facility and keep it busy year-round. That's what our kind of giving back part of our mission is, so that we can all see the safety records continue to improve and actually be talked about. The mission, as far as what does this center need to look like and be, we took the approach that it needs to be something that GA has never had in a single location. A lot of us have flown professionally or have flown in the type world where you're going to the SimComs and the flight safeties and having to do every 6-month recurrent kinds of training. So we know what that experience is like, and we wanted to bring that down to the GA pilot. And if you go, when you tour the facility, you'll see it's very much structured physically that way, where it has conference rooms, briefing rooms, the actual simulators, places for one-on-one work with the instructor. But probably equally important to the physical attributes of it is the content that we are making available and what we're trying to do from a programming standpoint, focused on GA-specific kinds of activities. So it already has a kind of a wowee, very professional, great feel to it when you come in. And then you get to experience something that as a GA pilot, you feel very comfortable with. It's not the rigor of say, a formal type rating where there's a test at the end and a formal check ride. But it has all the things that can help you through your journey of becoming a better and safer pilot. Some of the things that we've started is the kind of what I call the basics, which is the skill enhancement type of training. We have it set up so that people can come in and in very short modules be able to improve any type of skill that they're wanting to work on, either guided or self-guided. We have the ability, because of a lot of the breakthrough materials that Redbird is creating, allow you to use the facility actually without a CFI and be able to continue to, with their pro model that they have, be able to develop specific skills that you may have. And we have it set up so there's building blocks where you can continue to pick and choose from a catalog of already curriculum that's been established, with most of that having been established over a 10-year, I think it's been over 10 years now with the PPC at AirVenture, I believe. I think it's 10 or 12. There was a lot of volunteers, a lot of people in this work, and a lot of hard work on creating the training syllabuses and curriculum that we now have on the shelf to be able to use on an annual basis and be able to work with people on that. So it's off the shelf. It's proven, which is very, very important. It's been tested, and it can be customized if need be. So we also then go all the way up the continuum to where you get to immersion training. And we have everything you can possibly want relative to far more, what I think Jeremy refers to it as endgame tailored training. So it's not just brushing up on stuff. It's actually trying to either complete a certificate or complete a certain skill level that you're trying to achieve. And we have expanded that significantly, so it can be used then on numbers of days. And again, like I said, it's to get to an actual desired outcome but doing it completely immersed here. One of the nice advantages is if you're doing immersion training here, you've got the facilities, you've got the ability to then use the museum when you want to take breaks. If you're hosting if you're a training provider and you're hosting something here, as you'll see tonight, we show real well. So you can have banquets and key speakers, keynote speakers, and that's part of what we think is the draw to the facility itself, because it's all things aviation. So the community that I talked about and this being part of for the community, as you can see in this picture, part of this is to get groups together and be able to do more of the group, whether it be a subject matter expert, whether it be clubs like our IMC and VMC club type of work, but to get people together and be able to work, which is really with peers sharing stories, having a facility that facilitates doing that, and our resources that we have to help bring those people in, as you'll see Redbird is doing over this next 2 days. People like Sean Tucker and Michael Goulian and a lot of other subject matter experts that we can help access for you to get them into the facility. As I said, it clearly was built for the community, so make sure that you guys understand that and take advantage and access it. And so far, we've got some lead off. I'm gonna skip one to go to this one. We've got some interesting ones that are already underway that are going to be happening here pretty quick. As a matter of fact, at the end of the month, we have an advanced IFR clinic. So we're partnering with Pilot Edge, or excuse me, that's another program. We're partnering with a group who are going to come in and do two-day IFR currency training. And it's everything from soup to nuts on the IFR currency training to get your 6-month training behind you. And you're probably asking, well, I know I can't get it complete because I got to do a circle to a land approach, and you can't do that in a simulator. They're actually bringing in airplanes to be able to accomplish that one piece of the task if you need to do that for your currency. So we're experimenting with that over these 2 different weekends to be able to provide that kind of level of training. I think it's pretty exciting and important because a lot of the community, I don't believe, are as you guys see it in your professional lives, but I think a lot of the pilots that I know and friends don't really understand the power of the simulator to be able to stay current. That was a big sweeping change when they allowed that for IFR currency, and we have the tools here and the simulators to do that. We also have the Turnback project, which I'll go back to. We have another program coming up prior to AirVenture. We experimented with last year on an internet-based basis on kind of laptop simulators, but we actually have Pilot Edge ATC group coming in, and they're gonna offer a session on flying the NOTAM. So you'll be here in the sim with Pilot Edge, who then facilitates connecting you with live ATC control tower folks, so that you can study the NOTAM. We'll brief the NOTAM, we'll train on it, and then be able to have you actually fly the NOTAM in the simulator with live ATC. So you're not getting what you think is pre-canned kind of feedback. If if you miss FISC or they tell you to turn around and leave, that's going to be it's going to be real time, and it's going to be because you need to, because you messed up. So it's going to be, I think, very, very good training to help demystify the flying into AirVenture. Actually, if you look back over the years, the way we've now designed the approach with the ability to use GPS waypoints and ADS-B for situational awareness, it's a longer route, but it's far more organized. And we've seen this over the last 2 years where the controllers, somebody cuts in line and they call them out by N number and name and say, back of the line, take a turn and get out of here. So we think that's a good safety enhancement and something that people need to be aware of. And we need to demonstrate it, and they need to fly it, and they need to understand it. So we're very excited about that. We've also used the center as a educational laboratory, if you will. We did a project that we worked with, and it helped kind of show the power of what the simulators can do, and specifically the stuff that Redbird has allowed us to have access to work on a project, and we called it the Turnback project. And it was, as it says up there, we got about 90 pilots. We had a specific profile that we were looking at. It was basically a departure with an engine failure at a given altitude, and what would the airplane's performance, and we did it, I think, in, let's see, it was a 172, and I forget what the other airplane was. And you do some groundwork ahead of time, kind of kicking around, what do you think is going to happen, and what do you think, even though you know that the engine's going to quit at a certain altitude, what do you think the performance of your airplane is going to be? All the attributes to you predicting what you think the end result will be. And we learned a lot, and the end result was much different than what probably 80% of the people predicted, which is, again, a big aha moment. And we've completed all that research and work. We use the simulator to collect the actual data. So as you see the blue lines there, I mean, we were able to pull real live data and provide it to the FAA to look at what we found out and what we believe we should be training to, and why more and more emphasis on turn back or not to turn back is so important in training. The recommendations were made. The big recommendations were around pilot decision making, the fact that people need to go out and develop their skills in that area, and we're putting together instructor and pilot training materials to go out and practice and demonstrate that, of course, at a much higher and safer altitude than departing from the runway, or departing directly from the runway. So it is paying dividends for a lot of things that we can do with the center that we didn't even know was possible. And I'm going to open it up for a question. I want to mention two things for the EA from an advocacy standpoint that I think is very important to this group. Mark Baker and I, and Kurt, who's in the room also, we testified before the House Aviation Subcommittee group a couple weeks ago. And the purpose of it was FAA reauthorization is coming due at the end of this year. And Congressman Graves, who's the chairman of Transportation Infrastructure, he has made, being a general aviation pilot and an EA and AOPA member, he's made it his direction as chairman to get general aviation specifically called out in the reauthorization bill. So he asked all the community as to, what do you want in the bill? What's the important things? A lot of it, as you can imagine, is dealing with the issues we're having with the FAA and their inefficiencies in other areas. But specifically, we address the fact that there's such a massive shortage of DPEs. And how can we get that changed? Because people aren't getting their check rides when they get done. They're having to wait forever. We got people coming from leaving Wisconsin going to New York because we only got 7 DPEs in the state. It's a mess. And one of the ways, you got to go in with an issue, but as I always say, if you're going to come with a problem, make sure you got a solution. Don't just drop it on the boss's desk. The solution is they need to take a change in policy on how they oversee the DPE process. And right now they manage it at the FSDO level locally, and in doing that, they don't have enough resources to be able to add new DPEs. So we want them to manage it at the national level, which we think will help solve that. So a lot of good work going into that area, which I hope will benefit you, along with the Mosaic regulatory change, which we hope will get the ability to use EABs for commercial flight training, certain models and makes, which will help lower the cost for flight training. So with that, before I introduce the next speaker, questions anybody might have on all things EAA. Yes, in the back.
Hey, Jack, on your immersion program, is that something that you have regularly scheduled, or is it more on demand?
Which program?
The immersion program.
Our Sport Pilot Academy, as example, is scheduled. We do a 3-week to certificate program. We're using RV-12s, and we've done this now. This will be, I think, class number 4 that we've done, and we run. I think we're going to run 3 of them this summer. But it's 3 weeks. You come in. We ask you to have your written well underway. And we train, and at the end of 3 weeks, take a check ride. And we've had good success with it. A lot of the people who are going through it are on our EA scholarship programs, which helps financially. So a lot of the other programs we are going to schedule. I think I can see the IFR currency one being a scheduled program. Other questions? Oh, yes, sir. 30
members in our flying club, local Wisconsin club. We have about 30 members in our local Wisconsin flying club. How would I schedule a proficiency day?
A proficiency day?
Yeah, just get everybody here to play with your simulators.
Jeremy in the back, who will, after this 2 days, will be the busiest man around, I hope. He'll be the one to talk to. And you can always send me an email, jpelton@ea.org, and I'll get it to the right people and get it taken care of. I look forward to that email. Okay. Next.
I actually have a question. I know in the reauthorization, there's some discussion about third-class medical reform, basic med. Do you see any threats to that, any updates to that as we go through this next most recent reauthorization?
And I'm going to look to Pete as my partner in crime over there on. I've never heard of third-class medical threats. I think that is. There's no discussion topic. It's in place and it's going to stay. There is discussion for expanding basic med. And with a recent, and that's just discussions. And that's, I think, in light of the fact the 10-year report came out and said this is absolutely performed as we had hoped that it would. There has been no increase in accidents related to health issues with people with basic med. So I think that's where we're, unless Pete, do you want to make any comments on that? Okay.
Hey, Jack, because obviously the Fox Valley here in Wisconsin is one of the most per capita heavy manufacturing valleys or areas around in the country. Are you having any success with the school districts around here to be able to use this facility for, educational training or credits and partnering with AOPA's program, but also down into the middle schools? I mean, what's the energy and what are the impediments to being able to have more schools use the facility?
We've had good luck in the surrounding schools outside of Oshkosh. Oshkosh School District has been very tough to penetrate because you need an advocate inside, which has been frustrating. But if you look at Winneconne, down in Fond du Lac and other areas, we've gotten good support and good school groups. We met, when we were designing the center, we met with the administrators or top folks in the education world at all these schools. We brought them all in and sat down and actually worked with them to pick the topics that we actually designed around as far as what types of things to do. I've been talking to Eric, who's got a remarkable program down at Sun and Fun and how he's working with schools. And we're going to learn from him as to how to make that penetration. I mean, he's got 800 kids a week going through his facility. We're probably at about half that. There's still, my goal and vision is that we get aviation in the schools somewhere as a magnet program. And I think it'll take AOPA's curriculum and our chapter network in the area to help. There's a model out there. It's in Oklahoma City. Sorry, you get me wound up on things I get passionate about, but down in Oklahoma, there's 3 really active AOPA chapters in Oklahoma City. And one of them has a school teacher in it that's in the Oklahoma City High School. And they have the curriculum in place, and then they've partnered with the AOPA curriculum in place at the high school. Then they've partnered with the chapter. So these kids, they're taking the courses during the day. They're going out to the chapter after school, and they're taking Young Eagle rides, and they're building a home built, and it's like they're all in all day. And that just seems like if we could get that model rolled out nationally, it really, really works. So that's our goal.